Remember when the JF-17 Thunder was a global punchline? People laughed and analysts scoffed, and the idea of it ever competing with established fighter jets seemed ludicrous. But what if I told you that very same jet has undergone a transformation so radical, it's now defying expectations and turning heads in the defense world? Get ready to uncover the shocking truth behind its incredible journey. When the JF-17 Thunder first entered the conversation, it wasn't greeted with applause, it was met with laughter. That is how the story begins. Not with pride, not with glory, but with doubt. Across international defense circles, analysts scoffed at the idea that Pakistan, struggling under economic pressures, reliant for decades on foreign suppliers, and carrying the scars of embargoes, could build a fighter jet worth taking seriously. The perception was brutal. The JF-17 was called cheap, unproven, even a paper plane. Western analysts dismissed it as nothing more than a political vanity project, a low-budget copy of Chinese designs, built for propaganda more than performance. Aviation blogs mocked it with headlines like, "Thunder without lightning," and "The jet nobody asked for." And to be fair, the early prototypes did little to inspire confidence. When the first prototypes rolled out in the late 1990s and early 2000s, the JF-17 looked underwhelming compared to the giants it was expected to face. In an era where the United States was fielding F-16 Block 50-52s and developing the F-35, and where Russia had Su-27s, Su-30s, and MiG-29s prowling the skies, the JF-17 seemed outdated even before it had taken its maiden flight. The Thunder was modest in size, lightweight, with a single Russian RD-93 engine. Critics claimed it lacked the thrust, the avionics, and the survivability to compete with even mid-range aircraft. Its radar was basic, its cockpit ergonomics unimpressive, and its weapons integration minimal. And the world was quick to notice. Military exhibitions often overlooked the JF-17 entirely, with some reporters joking that it looked like a second-hand MiG painted with a new name. To understand why the world laughed, you need to understand the environment. The Cold War had just ended. The United States, Russia, and European powers dominated aerospace technology. Aircraft like the F-15, the F-16, the Su-27, and even the Mirage 2000 had already built reputations through combat performance. Against this backdrop, the JF-17, designed jointly by Pakistan and China, looked like an amateur attempt to play in a league far above its weight. Even the partnership was mocked. China at the time was not yet regarded as a top-tier aerospace innovator, and Pakistan had little history in designing jets from scratch. Western think tanks confidently wrote off the program, predicting it would fail before entering service. In fact, in the early 2000s, some Indian analysts claimed the JF-17 wouldn't last a decade, arguing that Pakistan would abandon it once the costs spiraled or performance fell short. The early technical challenges. And indeed, there were problems. The first prototypes of the JF-17 faced repeated setbacks. Engine dependency. Pakistan had to rely on the Russian RD-93, which was essentially a modified MiG-29 engine. Moscow was hesitant about supplying it in bulk, leaving Pakistan vulnerable to political pressure. Radar shortcomings. Early radars lacked the ability to support modern beyond visual range (BVR) combat. This alone made the aircraft seem obsolete. Avionics and integration. The cockpit systems were outdated, and Western avionics suppliers were unwilling to cooperate due to sanctions and political pressure. Weapons compatibility. The JF-17 could not initially integrate with a wide variety of missiles and bombs, restricting its combat flexibility. These weaknesses fueled the ridicule. The Thunder, critics said, was little more than a flying testbed. International defense media wasn't kind either. Aviation journals often compared the Thunder unfavorably to the F-16, calling it a budget imitation or a hand-me-down MiG. Western analysts suggested Pakistan was wasting resources, chasing prestige instead of practical defense solutions. Even within Pakistan, skepticism existed. Some voices in the military establishment feared the jet would drain resources without delivering real capabilities. Soldiers and officers, long accustomed to flying American jets like the F-16, found it hard to trust an unproven, locally assembled machine. Here lies the irony. The very reasons the world mocked the JF-17 were the reasons Pakistan needed it most. For decades, Pakistan had relied almost entirely on American-supplied aircraft. From the F-86 Sabre to the F-16, U.S. jets had formed the backbone of its air force. But the 1990s taught Islamabad a bitter lesson. Dependence comes with chains. When sanctions hit, particularly after Pakistan's nuclear tests in 1998, Washington froze aircraft deliveries and spares. Squadrons were grounded overnight. Pakistan's most capable fighter, the F-16, was suddenly unreliable. Not because of its design, but because of politics. The Pakistan Air Force needed a way out. It needed an affordable fighter, one it could build and maintain, without begging for foreign approval. And thus, out of necessity, the JF-17 Thunder was born. Still, the world wasn't ready to give it credit. In the early years, the Thunder was like a boxer entering the ring already declared a loser. Nobody believed it could last, let alone win. But history has a way of favoring the underestimated. Because behind the ridicule, engineers at Pak Camera and China's Chengdu Aircraft Corporation were quietly making adjustments, running tests, and pushing the design further. It was a long road riddled with failures and frustrations. Yet every paper-plane headline only fueled the determination to prove the world wrong. Every weapon has a birthplace. For the JF-17 Thunder, that birthplace wasn't a factory, but a crisis. The 1990s were a turning point for Pakistan's air defense. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the global balance of power shifted, and Pakistan suddenly found itself dangerously exposed. For decades, the Pakistan Air Force had relied on Western technology, especially the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the jewel of its fleet. But reliance, as history proved, comes with chains. The sanctions shock in 1990, the Pressler Amendment slammed into Pakistan like a brick wall. The U.S., citing Pakistan's nuclear ambitions, froze military sales. The deal for 28 brand new F-16s, already paid for in full, was abruptly canceled. Not a single jet was delivered. Spare parts for existing Falcons became scarce, and Washington made it clear. Islamabad could no longer count on American goodwill to keep its skies defended. This wasn't just a military setback, it was an existential crisis. Imagine a nation facing an adversary with hundreds of modern aircraft, yet unable to even service its own frontline fighters. For Pakistan, surrounded by India on one side and instability in Afghanistan on the other, the vulnerability was glaring. That vulnerability gave birth to a singular question: what if we built our own fighter? The spark of independence. Pakistan's leadership realized that survival depended on breaking free from foreign dependency. No more waiting for Washington to sign paperwork. No more political strings attached to every spare part. The answer came in the form of a partnership with China, a country that understood isolation, sanctions, and the need for self-reliance. Together, they envisioned a lightweight, cost-effective, multi-role fighter that could be mass-produced without reliance on Western technology. That vision became the JF-17 Thunder, Joint Fighter 17, known in China as the FC-1 Xiaolong, or Fierce Dragon. At first, it was mocked as desperation, but for Pakistan, it was more than a plane. It was a symbol of independence. Why cost mattered, Pakistan's economy could not sustain fleets of $100 million jets like the F-15 or Rafale. But what if you could build a fighter for a fraction of that cost, around $25 million per unit, without compromising on capability? The JF-17 promised exactly that. Cheap enough to be produced in numbers, advanced enough to defend Pakistan's skies, and versatile enough to adapt to multiple roles. This made the Thunder not just a jet, but a strategic equalizer. For Pakistan, every JF-17 rolling out of the Pakistan Aeronautical Complex in Kamra was more than hardware. It was proof that even under sanctions, the country could innovate, produce, and fight on its own terms. Every time the JF-17 taxied on a runway, it carried with it more than missiles and bombs. It carried a message. We are no longer at the mercy of superpowers. The jet became a psychological weapon as much as a physical one. For adversaries, it meant Pakistan had found a way around isolation. For allies, it demonstrated resilience. For Pakistanis at home, it became a point of pride, an aircraft that didn't just guard the skies, but represented the dream of independence. But symbolism alone doesn't keep a nation safe. The first JF-17 prototypes, developed in collaboration with China's Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, faced daunting hurdles. Engines sourced from Russia were politically sensitive. Early avionics were bare bones. Weapons integration lagged behind. Yet every shortcoming became a lesson. Engineers at Pak Camera worked tirelessly, side by side with Chinese counterparts, modifying, upgrading, and refining. Each block of the Thunder improved on the last. What critics saw as a weakness, the need for constant iteration, was in fact the jet's greatest strength. Unlike static, overly expensive Western jets, the Thunder was designed to evolve. National symbolism. The JF-17 was more than a fighter. It became a flag in the sky. To Pakistan's military, it was insurance against sanctions and betrayal. To the people, it was a reminder that necessity could breed innovation. To the world, it was proof that even underdogs could build something formidable. And perhaps most importantly, it gave the Pakistan Air Force something priceless. Every underdog faces ridicule before respect. For the JF-17 Thunder, survival meant more than just flying. It meant proving to the world that it deserved to exist. The rough takeoff. When the first prototypes of the JF-17 Thunder took to the skies in 2003, they were far from polished. Critics scoffed at its modest airframe, calling it obsolete before birth. Western analysts dismissed it as a desperate copy of outdated Chinese designs, incapable of surviving against modern fourth-generation fighters like the F-16 or Mirage 2000. The early Thunder had limitations. Its Russian-supplied RD-93 engine was seen as unreliable, its avionics primitive, and its radar lacking sophistication. Even within Pakistan, there was skepticism. Could this humble machine really carry the weight of a nation's defense strategy? But what outsiders saw as flaws, Pakistan saw as opportunities for growth. The Thunder's design was modular, built to evolve over time, each version an answer to the critics. Iterative development, the block legacy. Instead of aiming for perfection from day one, engineers pursued an iterative approach, producing the jet in blocks, each one refining and expanding its capabilities. Block Y 2007, the first operational model. Basic avionics, limited weaponry, but cheap, reliable, and available in numbers. For Pakistan, it was proof of concept. For the world, it was a sign that the Thunder wasn't just a prototype, it was here to stay. Block 2, 2015, a leap forward, equipped with in-flight refueling, data link capabilities, and upgraded avionics. Suddenly, the Thunder could fly farther, fight smarter, and coordinate with other aircraft in real time. Block 3, 2022, the crown jewel. Outfitted with AESA radar, helmet-mounted displays, advanced electronic warfare suites, and beyond visual range, BVR missile capability. No longer a budget fallback, the Thunder was now a true fourth-generation plus fighter. This steady evolution mirrored Pakistan's strategic patience. Each block silenced more doubters, proving that the Thunder could not only fly, it could fight and win. Early adoption, a test of faith. The Pakistan Air Force, PAF, took a gamble by inducting the JF-17 as a frontline fighter in 2007, even when critics still called it unfinished. The first squadrons replaced aging A-5s and Mirages, giving Pakistan a desperately needed upgrade in numbers. At first, pilots approached the jet cautiously. Some doubted its survivability in high-intensity combat. But training exercises revealed a different story. Lightweight, agile, and easy to maintain, the Thunder was earning quiet respect, and then came its baptism of fire. Combat credibility. In February 2019, during the Pulwama-Balakot crisis, the JF-17 Thunder was deployed in real combat for the first time. During Operation Swift Retort, PAF pilots flying JF-17s launched precision strikes on Indian targets across the line of control. While debates continue over the details of aerial engagements, What was undeniable was this: the Thunder had officially entered combat and performed. For Pakistan, the symbolism was immense. A jet once ridiculed as a laughingstock was now flying into battle and returning victorious. It wasn't just defending airspace, it was defending the Thunder's honor. On the global stage, while the world's military giants dismissed the JF-17 at first, international air shows began to change the narrative. At exhibitions like Dubai Air Show and Paris Air Show, the Thunder surprised audiences with its agility and modern systems. Slowly, buyers began lining up. Myanmar became the first export customer, acquiring the Thunder to modernize its fleet. Nigeria followed, flying the jet in combat operations against insurgents with success. Rumors swirled of potential deals with nations like Azerbaijan, Iraq, and Argentina, drawn by the Thunder's unbeatable mix of cost and capability. Unlike Western jets burdened by billion-dollar price tags, the Thunder offered affordability with teeth. For many smaller nations, it was the only path to modern air power. Maintenance and adaptability. One of the JF-17's unsung strengths is its ease of maintenance. While advanced jets like the F-35 require massive infrastructure and endless budgets, the Thunder is low-maintenance, rugged, and field-friendly. For Pakistan, this meant more aircraft in the sky at any given time. For potential buyers, it meant independence from the political baggage of Western suppliers. This adaptability wasn't just technical, it was strategic. The JF-17 gave Pakistan the freedom to arm itself without waiting for Washington, Moscow, or Paris to approve. Transformation of perception. Bit by bit, the Thunder began shedding its laughingstock label. Analysts who once mocked it were now calling it a pragmatic success. Aviation magazines began highlighting its Block 3 upgrades. Pilots who flew it praised its handling and avionics. The Thunder had gone from underdog to contender. Combat proven, the JF-17's defining moments. For years, critics dismissed the JF-17 Thunder as a budget fighter, a compromise aircraft that would never stand against modern adversaries. But history has a way of silencing doubters. And in 2019, the JF-17 did exactly that. In the tense skies over Kashmir, JF-17s of the Pakistan Air Force locked horns with the Indian Air Force in one of the most closely watched aerial encounters of the 21st century. Armed with beyond visual range BVR missiles, the Thunder proved its mettle, shooting down 2 Indian fighter jets with clinical precision. For the first time, the world saw that Pakistan's so-called budget jet was not only combat-ready, but lethal in a contested battle space. Overnight, the JF-17's reputation shifted from an underdog to a force to be reckoned with. But the story did not stop there. Fast forward to May 2025, and the Thunder etched its name even deeper into military history. In a stunning display of joint capability, Pakistan employed ballistic missiles to cripple India's much-touted S-400 air defense system, once thought to be impregnable. The move shocked defense analysts worldwide. If the S-400 could be taken out, then the balance of power was far less secure than many had believed. In the same month, the Thunder went on to claim even greater laurels. 6 Indian fighter jets and an advanced UAV were destroyed in rapid succession. Each engagement demonstrated not only Pakistan's evolving doctrine, but also the growing sophistication of the JF-17's avionics, radar, and BVR missile systems. These were not isolated skirmishes. They were proof that the Thunder had matured into a modern, credible, and deadly air combat platform. It was in these battles that the world truly began to take notice. Defense circles that once mocked the JF-17 as a cheap copy now studied it as a cost-effective, combat-proven alternative. Countries grappling with budget constraints but desperate for modern air power saw in the Thunder a template for survival. Affordable, adaptable, and deadly when it mattered most. The JF-17's journey from laughingstock to legend was not one in design bureaus or air shows. It was written in the skies, in real combat, against real adversaries, where the stakes were measured in lives, strategy, and national survival. And with every kill confirmed, with every system defeated, the world had no choice but to acknowledge what Pakistan had always known. The Thunder was here to stay. For a jet once dismissed as a budget toy, the JF-17 Thunder now found itself stepping into hangars, air shows, and combat fleets around the world. Its journey from local experiment to global export contender was about to rewrite the rules of military aviation. Breaking into a hostile market. The global fighter jet market is notoriously unforgiving, dominated by American giants like Lockheed Martin's F-16 and F-35, Russian staples like the MiG and Sukhoi families, and European rivals such as the Mirage 2000 and Eurofighter Typhoon. There seemed little room for a newcomer from Pakistan and China. Western analysts scoffed. They argued no serious Air Force would buy a jet that was born out of necessity, built on a budget, and branded as a second-tier copy. But what they underestimated was the power of affordability, coupled with practical performance. For nations struggling to modernize their fleets without sinking billions into procurement and upkeep, the JF-17 was not a copycat, it was a lifeline. The air show strategy. If the Thunder was to convince the world, it needed a stage. That stage was the International Airshow Circuit. In Dubai, Paris, and Zhuhai, the JF-17 began making appearances, often overshadowed by the flashier Western jets. But when it flew, it surprised spectators. Agile, reliable, and capable of carrying modern weapons, the Thunder was no paper plane. Demonstrations highlighted its versatility. It could carry precision-guided munitions, air-to-air missiles, and even anti-ship weapons. For small and mid-sized nations, this was a selling point, a multi-role fighter without the multi-billion-dollar bill. The first buyers breaking into the export market required more than just flashy demonstrations. It required the first customer, a military willing to bet its defense on the Thunder. Myanmar became the first nation to do so, acquiring JF-17s to bolster its air force. Despite facing criticism for human rights issues, the deal showcased one undeniable fact. The Thunder had broken the export barrier. Nigeria followed, and its case was even more significant. Nigerian JF-17s weren't just parked on airfields. They were used in live combat against insurgent groups. Reports confirmed the jets successfully carried out precision strikes, cementing the Thunder's image as a combat-proven platform. Azerbaijan has long been rumored as a potential buyer, particularly after its experience in drone and missile warfare against Armenia. The JF-17, with its affordability and multi-role capacity, fits into the strategic calculus of nations facing similar regional rivalries. Other countries, including Iraq, Malaysia, and Argentina, have all flirted with the idea of acquiring the Thunder, attracted by its price tag and independence from Western political strings. Why nations choose the Thunder? The success of the JF-17 in exports is not about outclassing the F-35 or the Su-35. It's about providing just enough capability at a fraction of the cost. Affordability. At around $25–30 million per jet, the JF-17 is dramatically cheaper than Western fourth-generation fighters. Operational costs. The Thunder costs roughly $4,000 per flight hour, compared to over $20,000 for an F-16, or even more for a Eurofighter. Independence. Buyers aren't tied down by US or European export restrictions. For nations often excluded from Western arms deals, this independence is priceless. For developing countries, the Thunder isn't just a jet, it's a gateway to modern air power. Changing global perceptions. Each export success was a blow to the laughingstock narrative. Defense analysts began acknowledging the JF-17 as a serious option for budget-conscious militaries. Headlines shifted from a jet nobody wanted to the affordable alternative to the F-16, from Pakistan's risky gamble to a success story in co-development. The very fact that the jet was flying in multiple air forces made it harder for critics to dismiss. Unlike experimental aircraft gathering dust in museums, the JF-17 was active, operational, and combat tested. The export ripple effect exports did more than spread the Thunder's wings. They funded its evolution. With every deal, more money flowed into research and development, fueling upgrades like the Block 3. This ripple effect gave Pakistan something it had rarely enjoyed in defense procurement, a self-sustaining program. Instead of endlessly depending on outside suppliers, Pakistan was becoming a supplier itself, challenging the giants. To be clear, the JF-17 was never meant to replace the F-35, Rafale, or Su-57. But in many ways, that wasn't the point. The Thunder's mission was to challenge the monopoly of defense giants by proving that capable air power doesn't have to bankrupt a nation. By the late 2010s, it had carved out a niche, the fighter of the underdog. For Pakistan, this was more than just business. It was vindication. Every export deal, every airshow flight, every combat sortie pushed the JF-17 further from ridicule and closer to recognition. The JF-17 Thunder has come a long way, from scrappy prototype to a genuine fourth-generation plus fighter. But in the skies of 2025 and beyond, evolution is everything. Block 3, pushing 4.5 gen boundaries. Launched into serial production late in 2020, the JF-17 Block 3 represents more than just iterative upgrades. It's a breakthrough. With features once reserved for advanced Western fighters, it has redefined what a lean, cost-effective jet can do. Key enhancements. AESA radar, KLJ-7A. A Chinese-made air-cooled AESA radar, built under license at PAC Camera. It can scan up to 40 targets, track 10 in track-while-scan mode, and engage 2 simultaneously digital fly-by-wire controls. Allows more precise maneuverability and easier integration of complex systems, IRST and HMDS, adds passive targeting through infrared search and track, and helmet-mounted display sight, boosting close-in air combat effectiveness. New HUD, EW Suite, MEWs. Modern cockpit design, advanced electronic warfare management, and missile warning systems bring the jet on par with contemporary threats. Engine upgrade, RD-93MA. Increased thrust from 8,300 kRev up to 9,300 kRev, improving load capacity and flight performance. To PAF officials, the Block 3 is no longer just a fighter. It's a fourth-generation plus force multiplier. Combat kit expansion, Block 3 also broadened the Thunder's armament and combat scope. Missiles like the PL-10E IR short range and PL-15E BVR range up to 145 km were integrated, alongside air-to-surface weaponry, guided bombs, anti-ship, and anti-radiation missiles. This made the aircraft ideally suited for multi-role operations, a must for nations needing flexibility at an affordable price. Export momentum and operational recognition. With these upgrades, the Thunder's export appeal surged. Azerbaijan, for instance, accepted the first Block 3s in September 2024. For Pakistan, export revenue isn't just business, it's reinvestment in its defense ecosystem. Block 3 sales are helping fund continued R&D. Block 3's evolution also hints at a strategic shift. Platform affordability combined with technological sophistication can be a game changer for mid-tier powers. PFX Alpha, Block 4. The next leap. The future of the Thunder sits within Pakistan's Operation Capability Upgrade, OCU, known as PFX Alpha, which paves the way to Block 4 under the PFX, Pakistan Fighter Experimental Program. This isn't just another upgrade. It's Pakistan's blueprint towards self-reliance and even fifth-gen ambitions. What's in store for Block 4? Internal Weapons Bay, IWB, stealth-enhanced design to lower radar cross-section, though limited by size constraints. DSI air intakes, reduce radar signature, improve engine airflow, critical for future propulsion upgrades. Passive IRST and advanced electronic warfare, enhances detection, tracking, and survival in contested environments. Manned-unmanned teaming, MUMT, concept integration to allow JF-17s to coordinate with loyal wingman drones, combat cloud and AI integration. Future aircraft linked through secure data links, sharing visuals, targeting data, and adapting in real-time stealth by material and eye-tracking tech. Lower signature and next-gen pilot interface, cockpit VR and wearable displays, enhance flight control and focus. The first prototypes are expected by 2028, pending PAF's R&D and resource allocation. The long-term legacy. The JF-17 story is proof that an underdog can climb to prominence, not by mimicking giants, but by being strategically smart. Block 3's operational success and Block 4's ambitious roadmap are testament to what necessity, partnership, and perseverance can yield. From a program born of sanctions, The Thunder has become Pakistan's skyward statement of sovereignty and innovation. And for the future, PFX Alpha points to something even more audacious, a domestic path toward next-gen warfighting.